Hello, this is Doug McCall, coordinator of the Global Network of Deans of Education and chair of the Fresh Partnership Promoting Equity, School Health, and Development. I'm pleased to be here presenting an overview and update on a joint statement prepared by several educator organizations commenting on education transformation and change. I'm hoping that this presentation will help participants at the International School Nurses Association Conference learn more about the concerns of educators and therefore be better equipped to cooperate with them in working on common goals. I'm going to be speaking about a statement that's listed on the slide that shows at this website, rebuilding, renewing, transforming schoolsystems.org. And I invite you to go to that website for much more information. I'd also invite you to follow up from this presentation to look at the slides that will be posted on the ISNA website, conference website, which will have several web links from dealing with the topics I'll be raising. The purpose of the presentation is to provide an overview of the concerns of educators and to help all of us learn better how to work with educators going forward. I'm speaking on behalf of the Global Network of Deans of Education and several educator organizations that represent different facets of teaching, learning, and supporting schools. These educator organizations are listed here. There are 10 of them, including the International School Nurses Association, as well as several others. This is probably the first time that these organizations have got together to prepare a joint statement. All of those associations are active at the international level, but they haven't been as welcomed in terms of their obvious place in talking about schools. Very often when UNESCO or the United Nations or other agencies from the UN talk about schools, they employ experts rather than the representative associations. We're hoping that this joint statement will encourage them to pay attention to the representative organizations. The statement is fairly straightforward in terms of its principles. They actually reflect a global consensus that have developed in several recent reports and documents and statements from many different organizations. And the principles there are noted. Inclusion and equity as being the core values for the school systems, achieving a better balance among the school goals. The Dolores Commission, UNESCO Commission from several years ago, talked about learning to learn, learning to do, learning to be, and learning to live together. As school nurses and as school health promoters, we're probably more concerned with the learning to be and learning to live together, but they're all equally important. The meeting of the needs of the whole child in terms of the child's health, safety, engagement, challenging in terms of challenging instruction and challenging curriculum is a well-known concept in education and has grown in acceptance in other sectors. And it's a basic fundamental of the statement. Offering a broad range of learning opportunities through a very wide, broad core curriculum and extracurricular activities is something that offers an opportunity for those of us concerned with health and life skills curricula. It creates space for a more solid home for that type of instruction in the classroom and that type of learning outside of the classroom. Using the school as a hub for agency support services and for the social development of children is less known. It actually was the original purpose of public schools in many countries, and its need has been underlined by the changes and trauma experienced during the COVID pandemic. Making proper and effective use of technology is another theme that's very prevalent among educators, less so among us who promote health and social development, but it is a factor in educational circles. Financing and inter-ministry funding and cooperation is an ongoing challenge for those of us working in education, as well as those of us working in other sectors. And the statement concludes with a real push for truly acting upon a whole of government strategies or actions that include changes in structures, policies, practices that actually sustain inter-ministry partnerships. The processes that are envisioned in the joint statement are here. There's 3 of them, and they're the processes that are with us, even though we've been working on this since the systems have been working on these challenges for several years. Rebuilding after COVID, which is more than just opening and closing schools or remote learning or the academic learning losses or providing some mental health services. It includes a broader investment in school meals, multi-intervention programs in infectious diseases and pandemic preparedness, a core curriculum in health and life skills education, vaccine knowledge, which would improve vaccine knowledge and acceptance, the use of extracurricular activities and social development, making the school as a hub for children to gather in school during out of school time and after school time. And then making much better use of school-based immunization campaigns led by school nurses. All those things are facet of rebuilding after COVID. And as I'll show you in the next slide, they're all remaining as challenges and things to be done quickly if we're truly going to build back better, as many promised. The commitment to the Sustainable Development Goals of inclusion and equity has been often repeated. Often we see documents that talk about accelerating the commitment, accelerating achievement, and I think we need to be realistic about what's actually being done or not done. I'll talk about that in the next slide as well. There are over 50 evidence-based policy program coordination frameworks, such as healthy schools, safe schools, community schools, a variety of child-friendly schools, and many, many others that we need to actually work with and implement and build capacity for within systems. And that's one of the major suggestions made in the statement, and that's one we need to act upon further. In terms of transforming school and other systems, there was a lot of talk about transforming school systems right after COVID and during COVID, using the opportunities of the major disruption. But in fact, we need to think big and act big if we're going to get it done. In fact, I'll close with some thoughts about large complex systems and point out that in many cases, large ongoing sustainable actions are not really being considered or acted or used thus far. The challenges in those three levels of activity, I would characterize as right now we're facing a need to save the furniture. I grew up in Quebec, and the French expression sauver les meubles is an expression where you often see when people are realizing that there's a disaster coming, a flood, a crisis or whatever, and we need to save the furniture as the first step. And that's what I think we are at in terms of the three challenges that I referred to. Rebuilding after COVID has not been completed. The emergency is now forgotten. There's little agreement on vaccine supplies achieved at the international level. The UN General Assembly Declaration on Pandemic Preparedness has underlined the challenges and urgencies. UNESCO is ignoring health and life skills curriculum, which includes a real focus on health literacy and vaccines. The extracurricular activities are often not part of the school day or even after the school day at schools, and there's been a retreat from vaccine policies. We need to go back and complete that rebuilding if we're going to have any chance of having a stable, sustainable system for children and youth. It's now increasingly recognized that the Sustainable Development Goals and targets are not going to be achieved in all countries. And there's a variety of reports that you can look up through the links here, but basically the goals have been too ambitious or too aspirational, and so people need to think about how to save the furniture. And our suggestion that's being made by the educator organizations to a number of immediate forums is that we look at trying to asking and supporting countries to pick out the targets that are most urgent for them and get them achieved, and not to try to dump other agendas on countries that are often distractions and need to be put aside in order for the countries to choose their own priorities and get those done with regard to the Sustainable Development Goals. And the transformation of school systems for the future requires a lot more system level actions, not more individual programs or better programs. as health promoters and social developers, we often have a great program we're trying to persuade educators to take up. And there is a time for that, but not when you're trying to transform the system. You need to look at the whole system, excuse me, and use whole of government strategies to build that system around the whole child and the whole school and the whole community. There are a number of opportunities to make use of this statement by using it as a basis for suggestions or as a backdrop to your own presentations. I'm going to just refer to a couple here that come to mind immediately. One of them is the UN follow-up to the Transforming Education Summit. It's excuse me, that is a real opportunity. There are UN coordination committees going on, and if you can access those in your community, that would be great in your country. UNESCO is in the process of rolling out what they call the recommendation. It's a revision of the 1974 recommendation. It's actually a policy and program framework with that title, a long title, and it is an opportunity for promoting change, school system change as well. The OECD has its own statement on equity and has its own Education 2030 initiative. The Global Education Monitoring Report from UNESCO, which is coming out in 24-25, it comes out every couple of years, is focused on leadership and education. And the educator groups are using that opportunity to focus on the different roles and leadership roles played by all of the members of the group. That includes school nurses. And so our suggestions will include clear role definitions, expanded scope of the role of school nurses in that case, and developing workforce development plan for all educators in the different categories. Another important opportunity is the follow-up to the pandemic preparedness UN statement and UN General Assembly initiative, and that's another opportunity. And so you can see that at the UN level, at the global level, there are a number of activities, opportunities to use the statement as a backdrop for timely focus on different things related to the content of the statement. And I invite you to read the statement in detail to pick out the spots that support your current priorities and concerns. I'm hoping that this presentation has provided information about the statement prepared by the educator organizations. You can learn more at the website there, Rebuilding, Renewing, and Transforming School Systems. You have the Education Dean's website as well as the Fresh Partners website to go to. Please contact me at this email address if you'd like to discuss this further. Thank you for your kind attention.